It began with the softest sound like paper brushing gently across the floor. I remember it clearly, because I live alone, and I wasn't expecting anything that day. No deliveries, no mail, just the steady rhythm of rain tapping against my apartment windows, and the occasional hum of pipes behind the walls. I had just made tea, Earl Grey, still steaming. I left it on the windowsill, untouched. As I turned toward the door, at first, I thought I imagined it. But there it was, a single folded sheet of paper, slipped halfway under the door, like it didn't want to be discovered, like it had crept in while the world was distracted. No envelope, no stamp, just paper, yellowing at the edges, brittle in a way that reminded me of old family Bibles or forgotten library books. There were faint smudges on the surface, as if it had been held by someone with dirt or something worse in their hands. I picked it up. It was cold, not just from the floor cold, in a way that clung to my skin. I unfolded it slowly. There was only one sentence. Return to where your name was first whispered. The Hollow remembers. I stared at it for a long time. My first thought was, someone's messing with me. Maybe a friend playing some weird prank. But even as I thought that, my fingers trembled, because there was something wrong with the handwriting. It looked familiar, but not from this life. Not from any letter I'd ever received. It was elegant, archaic, written in ink that shimmered faintly under the kitchen light. The loops were tight and deliberate, like someone wrote it with care or ritual. That word, whispered, it made my skin crawl. See, names are spoken, shouted, written, but whispered. That's something else. That's intimate. That's secretive. And somehow, reading it made me feel like someone else was in the room with me, breathing just behind my shoulder. I turned around. Nothing. The tea had gone cold. That night, I left every light on. I tried to sleep, but my ears wouldn't stop straining, like they were tuning into a frequency just beneath hearing, a hum beneath the silence. No actual words, just the shape of them. Like if I concentrated too hard, I might accidentally understand. I must have drifted off eventually, because I woke at 3:11 a.m. to a sound I hadn't heard since childhood, a swing creaking in the wind. Only there are no swings outside my window, just the alley. And when I looked out, I swear there were footprints. Just one pair, barefoot, leading up to my door. That was when I knew this wasn't a prank. It wasn't a mistake. Something had remembered me, and it wanted me back. I left the city the next morning. It wasn't a choice. Not really. It was more like the world outside the letter had become unimportant. I barely remember packing. I think I threw some clothes in the back seat, grabbed a flashlight, and wrote a note I never sent. It just said, if I don't come back, don't come looking. There's a strange fog that settles over your thoughts when something ancient starts calling to you, like part of you already knows where to go even if you haven't thought about that place in years, or decades, or lives. I typed Ebon Hollow Road into my phone. Nothing came up. No surprise. That place had always felt like it existed on the edge of reality. I hadn't been there since I was a kid, and even then, it was only for one summer. I remember vague things, muddy boots, my aunt's perfume, an attic that was always locked but nothing clear, Nothing that would make sense now. And yet, I found myself behind the wheel, steering north, then west, then northwest, past towns that felt too quiet, gas stations that looked like they'd given up trying to be remembered. At some point, I realized I hadn't passed another car in over an hour. Then came the forest. At first, it was just a stretch of trees along the roadside, bare branches scratching against the overcast sky like fingers searching for something to hold on to. But the deeper I went, the more it changed. The air felt wrong, heavy. The leaves on the ground weren't brown, they were blackened, brittle like ash. No birds, no squirrels, not even wind, just silence. The road narrowed, became uneven. Eventually, pavement gave way to cracked dirt and gravel, like nature had tried to reclaim it, but something below refused to let go. Every few hundred feet, I saw things out of place. An old tricycle rusted to its frame, a child's shoe with moss growing inside, and once a mailbox with no house, just a name written in faded paint. Hollow. I knew then that I was close. Then, just beyond a bend, choked with thorn bushes, I saw the gate. Tall, rusted iron, twisted in places like it had been bent by inhuman hands. The letters were still there, barely clinging to the arch. E-B-O-N. I stopped the car. I don't remember getting out. My legs moved before my thoughts caught up. The gate wasn't locked. It opened without a sound. No groaning metal. No resistance. That's when I realized nothing here wants to be noticed. Even the wind had stopped. Beyond the gate, the road continued, but it didn't feel like earth anymore. The trees were too tall, the shadows too still. I saw movement out of the corner of my eye constantly, but whenever I turned, nothing. Only silence. Watching silence. By the time I reached the clearing where the house should have been, the sky had gone gray like wet cement. The sun was up somewhere, but the light didn't feel real. It felt filtered. And there it was. The house. Exactly as I remembered it. 3 stories high. Slanted roof. Shutters painted forest green. The swing still hung from the massive oak out front, still creaking softly. Though I swear there was no wind. I stopped cold, because here's the thing. This house had burned down. I remember the fire, the orange glow through the trees, my aunt screaming, the smell of scorched wood, and something meatier. I remember being carried out by someone who wasn't family. I remember being told never to come back. But here it was. Oh, perfect. Waiting. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Just once. No signal. No missed calls. No notifications. Just one new image. In the gallery. A photo I didn't take. It was a picture of me, standing at the gate, but the timestamp, 3:11 a.m., same time I woke up the night before. That was the moment I realized I hadn't returned to Ebon Hollow. I had been called back. There's something unnatural about a house untouched by time. The porch didn't creak when I stepped on it. The paint hadn't peeled. The swing still moved, slow and steady, like it had never stopped. The only thing that felt offend, I mean that in the most visceral way, was the air. It was heavy, too still, like the house was holding its breath. And I was the reason. The front door opened when I touched it. I didn't even have to turn the handle. It just yielded. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Not must, not rot nothing, like an abandoned place. No, it smelled faintly of lavender, and old candle wax, like someone had just cleaned up for company, someone who still lived there, or maybe someone who had never left. Inside, everything was exactly where it had been. The faded blue couch, the upright piano with the broken A key, the clock above the mantel, that had never worked, but the thing that stopped me cold. The family portrait over the fireplace. It was us, my aunt, my cousin Jacob, me. Only, I don't remember ever taking that photo. I was wearing clothes I didn't recognize, and Jacoby looked older than he ever got to be. His eyes in the picture, they looked wrong, like they had seen something they weren't supposed to. I stepped closer to examine E10. That's when the grandfather clock in the hallway chimed. Once, loud enough to rattle the window panes, loud enough to make my teeth vibrate. But the hands on the clock didn't move. That was the first time I felt the shift, not in the house in me. It was like something old had turned its gaze in my direction. Something buried, forgotten, or waiting to be remembered. I walked through the living room like I was walking through a dream I couldn't wake from. Dust clung to nothing. No cobwebs, no signs of decay. Only a strange, quiet presence. It wasn't welcoming, but it wasn't hostile either. It was expectant, like a dog watching the front door for someone long gone. Then I found the mirror. It stood tall, near the base of the stairs. Ornate, golden frame. I'd broken it once, when I was a kid. Threw a ball at it and watched it crack like ice. But now, no cracks, no imperfections. I stood in front of it, and my reflection didn't move. I froze. My arms were at my side, but the figure in the glass had its hand pressed to the mirror, palm flat against the surface, like it wanted out. I took a step back. So did it, like it was mocking me. I reached into my coat, pulled out the letter, the one that had brought me here. I looked at the handwriting again. It matched. The same looping ink, the same sharp curls. I looked back up. My reflection was gone. Only the empty room stared back at me. I told myself I was tired, and maybe this was all stress, a hallucination, a trick of the mind. I told myself I was fine. I was lying, because in that moment I knew the truth. Something in that house knew me better than I knew myself, and it had been waiting, not days, not years. It had waited since the moment I was born.